Hello, friends, and welcome back to Wake Up with Nat. I'm your host, Natalie Kelly, and today, let's first address the elephant in the room. I am stuffed up. I have had a plague of a sickness. The doctor yesterday said it was a nasty cold. I looked at her like she was crazy. I mean, she has the medical degree, but I was so sick. We are definitely coming out of it, but I'm still stuffy. But I really wanted to get this episode done, and it's been on my calendar, and I've been really excited to record it. So I'm going to be coughing a little. I'm going to be a little stuffy. Please just bear with me. I promise it'll be worth it. I did also just FaceTime one of my college roommates for like 2 hours. We have not talked in so long. So my voice is also just going away a little bit because I've not been using my voice that much while sick. But we're going to trudge ahead anyways. And today we are going to be talking about how to really accept yourself and love yourself as a multi-passionate, multi-dimensional person that maybe worries about seeming messy or chaotic by society's standards because maybe you haven't picked a straight and narrow path, or maybe you haven't necessarily chosen one thing for your career. So we're going to dive into that today. And I first want to be super real with you guys, other than being stuffy and being a bit sick. Today's been a really anxious day, and it honestly leads perfectly into this episode, but it's been an anxious day. And honestly, while I was sick, I felt really good in my soul, which is weird. I feel like I kind of got sick for a reason, in this sense of I had to slow down. Like, I was so forced to do nothing. I had been sleeping in, no alarm for over a week. For most of the days this past week, I wasn't even looking at work till 12:30, and I was just outside in the sun for hours on end, reading and journaling and sitting in the grass and soaking up the sun. It's been gorgeous here. It's like 70 degrees right now, which is why I don't have my normal comfy blanket that I normally do in this corner. But today, I felt so anxious, and I recognized a few things. One, I kind of dove back in a little more officially today into work. I had a client call for business mentorship, and then I had, errands to run, dishes to do, just all these life things that I'm so grateful my girlfriend has fully taken care of while sick. Like, she cooked every meal, dishes, errands, groceries, the dog. I was literally just sunbathing in the backyard, healing and chugging tea, basically. And so diving back into that, but also still not having my normal routine. I still did not wake up with an alarm today, which I know my body needs. I obviously am not doing physical activity, like even going on walks around the neighborhood. I'm, coughing quite a bit, and just not having my full routine, but now having to dive more back into work, even though I obviously love what I do. I just felt this anxiety come up. When I really sat with it, I was like, okay, yes, like I don't have my normal routines for sure. Yes, I'm juggling a lot of things, but one of the reasons that I was feeling anxious is because my ADHD. And I know not everyone who is super multi-passionate and multi-dimensional has ADHD, and we're going to talk about that a bit in this episode. But for me, my ADHD does lend itself to having a lot of hobbies, having a lot of interests, and I love that about myself. Like, that is something I've learned to love about myself, and that's obviously why we're talking about this episode, right? But it is kind of a double-edged sword, because while I love it, it keeps my ADHD engaged, and I love being multi-passionate, multi-dimensional, having tons of different avenues within my career, my business, my work. Without the routines to ground me, I started feeling really anxious about it today. And it wasn't because I actually couldn't handle what was on my plate, but it was simply because I was just feeling scattered. I was feeling all over the place. Like, I have to post for myself. I have to post for clients. But client notes. But I have dishes to do, and I have, groceries to get. And then, FaceTiming a friend, which thankfully grounded me and just grounded me back into joy. But I started feeling chaotic today. And I noticed old thoughts of shame around being someone who does a lot, has a lot of passions, has a lot of interests, has a lot of different aspects to her career start to pop up. And that's why I was feeling anxious more so, is because of this shame and oh my gosh, why did I pick this path? Like, all of those thoughts that are easy to go down into when you're kind of in a shame spiral. And it was really helpful to just pause and notice that and be like, wait, no, we're good, girl. You're just sick and you don't have your normal routines to ground you. But being multi-passionate, and for me, a lot of that lends itself to my career, is not a bad thing. You don't, you don't have too much on your plate. Like, you're good, dude. It's just Friday and you're sick. So I wanted to give that little backstory. And I honestly didn't know if I was going to get to the point of recording this today, because I was like, I'm just too anxious. Like, I cannot talk about this. I can't talk to anyone. I need to just sit here with my matcha and, work, 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 which was not true at all. So I'm very happy to be here talking to you about this today. If I'm looking at my phone, it's because I wrote notes down. That is really helpful for me, especially as I'm getting in the groove of the podcast. And again, with ADHD, like, I'm trying to release all shame around my ADHD. I want to do a whole episode on that, but I didn't get diagnosed until last year when I was 28. And it's come with a lot of unlearning and relearning. And one of those is like, I just have to do things that, help my brain. There my little brain goes. But I need notes while I do the podcast, and that is okay. So this episode is actually inspired by one of my friends, Maddie, who we have been friends since 6th or 7th grade, I think 6th grade. And oh my God, I'm trying to flash you guys. But she texted me and she asked, how have you learned to accept being so multi-passionate and multi-dimensional, and having had so many different avenues to your career and your career currently? Like, how do you release others' expectations or other people's opinions on that? Because she has similarly gone through a lot of different career changes with her passions and her interests. And I was like, this question is too good not to do a full episode on, because it's something that I think I didn't even necessarily realize I've been working on for years to kind of like come to terms with and really love about myself. But it has been, because we are fed by society, pick a path at 18 when you go to college and stick with it. And that has never been my thing, right? So to give you a little background into my history of being multi-passionate, especially within the career realm. So I did go to college. I went to a small liberal arts school. And at first I picked the marketing route. Realized when it was only one class off from a general business major, I was like, wait, that's not what I want. I want something a little more creative, like writing or design or, social media at the time was kind of like where my brain was going. And so I ended up getting my degree in mass communications. I didn't get my school, now they call it like journalism and media studies. So I did PR classes, journalism classes, graphic design, photojournalism, social media theory. And at this time is when I actually entered the social media world. So I started in social media as a food and wellness blogger. I was making recipes in my dorm kitchen and also had a blog. That was like a big era of blogging. I went to college in 2014. So I had like a WordPress blog with my recipes. I would talk about my workouts and running and health journey and all of the things. And I loved it. Like, I fell in love with creating. And I also really fell in love with this idea of entrepreneurship. And I had always known since I was little, I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't really know how I was going to do that. So by the time senior year rolled around, I was making some money off social media, but not enough to do content creation full time, just doing food blogging. And I knew, though, that there was no way I could go into corporate PR. So I had been applying to PR firms, and I ended up like revoking all of that. Was like, no. Called my parents 2 months before graduation, and I was like, I'm going to become a personal trainer. My parents are amazing. They have never questioned my pivots, my changes, my passions, my multi-dimensionalism. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. They're like, hell yeah, do it. Like, do it. They supported me. I started studying for my NASM personal training certification as I was also working on graduating college. I was huge into distance running at the time. I was still blogging. And I'd recently also been diagnosed with chronic illness. So I graduated. I got really sick with my chronic illness. I was literally in the hospital. Like, I was hospitalized, like studying to become a personal trainer. And the nurses were like, what are you doing? What's happening? But I did it. I passed my test, and my parents were really encouraging me. They're like, just full send with a business of your own. And I was like, I don't know how to do it yet. I don't know. So I ended up getting hired at a really incredible gym in Washington, like probably the best you could ever work at. And I lasted 2 months. I, at the time, also knew my body was not like in the place after being hospitalized to be a personal trainer. And I was like waking up so early in the morning to work on my blog, staying up so late to work on it. Like, I just knew I really wanted to take a chance on myself. And while I was working at the gym at the time, I also learned about the coaching industry. So like health and wellness coaching. So I ended up quitting that job and got my holistic health coaching certification. and I launched my first business. I was like, wait, I love wellness. I love food. Like, I want to be a holistic health coach. So I first launched a very general holistic health coaching business under the name Plenty and Well, which was my business's name for years to come after that. But after a few months, I realized the niche of people I actually loved working with were other people with chronic illness. And I actually loved talking to them more about mindset and their lifestyle than actual health, wellness, food, all of that. Of course, also because food is so different for all different diagnoses. So I then got my mindset and life coaching certifications, and I ran my business Plenty and Well for about 4.5 years. And I did mindset coaching for folks with chronic illnesses to help them accept their diagnoses and still learn to live a life they love and a life of confidence post-diagnosis. And I adored it. And within it, I still did content creation. I still did some recipes. I hosted webinars. I did group coaching. I did so many different things. In that era, I also hosted some in-person fitness events in Washington, and it was so incredible. I launched a journal, even a guided journal for folks with chronic illnesses that sold on Amazon. And it was just, it's so great. Like, I am so proud of myself, and that business will always be my first baby. But being multidimensional, being multi-passionate, I started noticing some burnout just talking about my own illness so much. And I was like, there's so much else in my life I want to talk about. And at the time, I also started talking about my coming out journey on TikTok and a different Instagram. So I started another Instagram account, started talking about my coming out journey in my life on TikTok, started gaining a following. And I was like, wait, I love this. Like, lifestyle creation is so fun. And at this time, I had just moved to Sacramento. So I really started pouring into it, and I started growing community. I got assigned to a talent management. I was doing more UGC content. So I was really balancing all of it. I was still doing my chronic illness business, lifestyle content, brand deals, UGC. I was doing some freelance UGC modeling in Sacramento. I don't want to say modeling. I am 5'2", but I would go to these studios and do it for brands there through a media company. And again, I was having so much fun, and we'll get back to that. But then my life got a little crazy, blew up a little bit, and I ended up realizing that I wanted to step away from coaching. So I stepped away from my chronic illness business. And at first, I really thought I was going to go back to it. But after a while, it just became apparent that that is not where my passion was lying anymore. And that is a business I needed undying passion for. So I started doing content creation full time, and I really loved it for a while, but I was just in a really tough place in my life. If you follow me on other platforms, this is when I was living at home for a few months after a very hectic season, a post breakup, in a new relationship. It was a very ungrounding time in my life. And I, while home, also was being a barista a couple times a week just to get human interaction, because I was living in a small beach town where my parents lived. There weren't a lot of people my age. And honestly, that was being a barista to this day, probably my favorite job I've ever had. It was so much fun. I inevitably ended up moving back to Sacramento because my girlfriend lives here. And I decided I wanted to give a normal job a try. I'd always worked for myself besides those 2 months being a personal trainer. So I got a marketing job at a yoga studio. Not any yoga studio, the yoga studio I used to go to. It was my home away from home, while still juggling content creation. And at first, it felt really positive, and then it took a turn, and it was just not a helpful environment to be in. It was not a positive environment to be in for me. I was so overworked and undervalued, and it was just crazy. But the months it was good, it was really good, and I had a lot of fun. But it unfortunately just took a tough turn. And I also realized within those 9 months I was there, I was entrepreneurship is truly the only thing for me. I never want to have a boss again. I never want to be on someone else's schedule again. I'm never doing that again. So I went back to the entrepreneur world. But this time, and this is what I do now, I started my new business, Holistic Studio, where I do freelance social media management, social media strategy. I also do business mentorship and content coaching for other creators and folks who want to start and scale online businesses, especially service-based businesses. So coaches, mentors, things like that. And then, of course, I do content creation, and that is my favorite part of my career, and it's so much fun. And I have been putting so much more effort into my content again, having this project come to life with the podcast, the revival of my YouTube, and I'm loving it. I'm loving every second. And once again, I'm having so much fun. But people could probably look at that journey, could probably go on my LinkedIn, which, hey, I'm a LinkedIn girly now. I'm posting on there. That's where I'm posting my business and social media tips mostly. So go connect with me there if you want to hear all about that. But they could probably look at my LinkedIn history, although, of course, it doesn't get all into the nitty gritty, and think, wow, this girl has like tried a lot of things, right? Or people in my own life. And I'm sure, oh my gosh, people maybe from high school or college see the pivots, the changes, the trials, the errors, and think, oh my God, she's like kind of all over the place. And I used to think that of myself too. Like I absolutely used to judge myself and think, oh my God, why can't I just like pick one thing? Why can't I just stay with one thing for my whole life? Because I grew up viewing my dad, who's the hardest worker I know. I love my dad so much. Like my parents are incredible. The fact that they have supported me and lifted me up, no matter how many pivots and changes I go through, and are there as like my biggest cheerleader, no matter what. I'm so lucky and so privileged to have that. And my dad, I grew up seeing him in corporate America, and he worked so hard. Like he was so incredible, and he did incredible things at the companies he was at. But I saw that, okay, he maybe changed companies a couple of times, but he really spent years in these companies kind of on a similar path. And I was like, okay, that's what we do. And that was not what I ever did. And it wouldn't have ever worked for me and my brain and my needs anyways. And the number one way that I really learned to accept this journey for myself was first actually asking, like, why do I have shame around this? And it was all because of fear of others' opinions. I don't actually care that I have tried all those things, but for so long, I cared what other people thought about what my life looked like. And as you could probably tell, as I was talking about so much of my journey with being very multi-passionate, especially within the career realm, I kept coming back to, and it was so much fun. Like when I was a personal trainer, it was so much fun. When I was a barista and a content creator, it was so much fun. When I ran my business, it was so much fun. Running this business, doing content creation, doing freelance work, it's so much fucking fun. Like I have fun in my life. And if other people don't get it looking at my life, I don't really care anymore. Because I have learned that, and as cheesy as this is, and everyone says this, I have learned to focus more on how my life feels than how it looks. And I know it's cheesy, and I know it's like, okay, so cliche, how do I do that? And we will talk about that. But it is the only way to accept yourself as a multi-passionate person, and then therefore get more honest with like your intuition and your gut feelings about your path, your career, and really kind of like allow your multi-passionateness to take charge and like create so much beauty and joy in your life, is to release like any care of what other people think about your life. And I know that feels like probably life's work for so many of us, but truly it is like the only way to find true joy and happiness is to not care. Here's how you're going to do it. The first thing is I want you to look at the way you speak about yourself being multi-passionate. So if you are someone who also maybe has tried a bunch of different things, maybe you went back to school for something, still didn't end up loving that career, tried something else, you do freelance work, whatever. Maybe you do like a bunch of different things and you still are feeling some shame around it, even though maybe it's fun. Maybe you're having a lot of fun, but you still feel this shame or this embarrassment about it. Look at how you're talking about yourself to other people. So first, when people ask you, what do you do? I hate that is always our first question that we ask people, because we should not like define ourselves obviously by the work we do. But inevitably, lots of people ask that question. Look at how you answer that question and how you show up and kind of perceive yourself as you tell someone or when you answer their question, if that literally makes sense. Because, for example, today I was on a business mentorship call with a new client. I was kind of asking her, right now, currently, what do you answer when people ask you that question? And she was kind of like, oh, well, I first explained that I did used to have this like really great corporate job, but then I decided this and then I decided that. And the way she was speaking about it was almost like talking down on her multi-passionate journey. And I was like, no. Like when people ask you that, you're going to fake it till you make it. And you say, hey, yeah, I'm a badass freelancer. Okay, you don't have to say badass, but be like, hey, I'm a freelancer and I'm really passionate about this mission that lights me up. When people ask me what I do, I'm not like, oh my gosh, well, I do like all these things. I do like freelance social media work, but I also do business coaching. But I'm also a content creator. No, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do so many things that I love. And actually today, while talking on FaceTime with my college roommate, she was like, dude, honestly, what do you do? Like, I watch your stuff all day and like, how do you actually pay your bills? Like, not in a rude way. And I was like, oh my God, let's get into it. I was like, I do so much and it is so fun. First, I do freelance social media work. I do business mentorship with incredible clients and I do content creation. So brand deals through my talent management, UGC. It is so much fun. Leave it at that. The way that you speak about yourself is the way people are going to perceive you. And a lot of the time, people aren't thinking that much about your journey anyways, especially if you're multi-passionate. Like, people are busy with their own lives. But start looking at like how you talk about your multi-passionateness, even in your own vocabulary when you're talking to your therapist or just in your head, or just how you're thinking about yourself. Because something I recognized, and my therapist called me out on this, is even though I really felt like I had accepted how multi-passionate I am, she was like, you use the word chaotic and messy a lot. And I was like, well, yeah, because I am kind of chaotic and messy. Like, oh my God, I just like do so many things all the time. And like, whatever, like I love it, but like it is kind of chaotic. And she's like, no, like those have negative connotations. So even if you don't think you are consciously taking that in, like your subconscious is. So by laughing it off and being like, oh, I'm so chaotic and messy, your subconscious is taking that as a negative, even if you don't think you're thinking about yourself negatively. So look at the way that you are speaking about yourself, because sometimes it is like the smallest vocabulary switch when you talk to people about your journey that can do it. Talk about yourself with pride. Like, being multi-passionate is such a beautiful thing, especially in a society that constantly tells us to niche down. Whether that's in a social media realm, like obviously that word niche is talked about a lot within business or social media, but just in general, it feels like there's this pressure to like pick one thing we're so passionate about, we're so good at, and that's also what our career is. And we stay in that career for 10 years because that looks best on the resume, and that is just what we do. And that is just not the path for so many people. And I think if you are someone who allows yourself to fully express being multi-passionate, whether within hobbies or career, whether that means you have a very colorful career of freelance work and part-time jobs and maybe acting and content or whatever it looks like for you, or you've switched careers and jobs a lot because you're listening to your intuition and your gut and you're following your joy and your passion, that's amazing. Like, that is something that so many people do not let themselves do because of a fear of what other people will think. So it's actually incredible. And so starting to hype yourself up around it, and then making sure when you talk to other people about your journey, you're using positive language. You're not deflecting. That's not the word I'm probably thinking of, but I think you know what I mean. You're not like talking down on yourself, or you're not, trying to play small. Like, take up space. You're allowed to be multi-passionate. Who fucking cares if it's not what other people are doing? I also think this idea of having to niche down, especially if you are someone on social media, because I also find that that's where I used to overthink all the time about being multi-passionate, was because I am a content creator. I was like, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm chaotic and messy because I post my vlogs, but I also post about my LGBTQ journey and my relationship and my outfits and running and wellness and self-care. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are just going to be so confused by me. Girl, what? That's just not true. Like, I think it is so cool when someone just is a niche of themselves. Like, they are the niche. You are the niche. All of your hobbies, all of your passions, the fact that you love junk journaling and fantasy and creative writing and horseback riding and running marathons and making matchas and traveling, like, that is so cool because that is all you. I would way rather watch your content, even if every video is kind of about a different topic, than if all you talked about was one of those things. And I will say, I feel like that is kind of the way that social media is going, not to get all like social media mentor on you here, but I really feel like we're kind of moving away from the niche, unless of course you run like a very specific business. But embracing all of you, even on social media, you do not need a niche. You're not confusing people. I promise you. I think too, asking yourself, like, what is this deeper level fear around being multi-passionate and why you worry about other people's judgment when it comes to a career path or career changes? And ask yourself, like, how can you mitigate those fears. If it is a specific person that you're like, oh my gosh, this one chick from high school, I get so anxious when I think about her seeing all of my career changes on LinkedIn or watching my Instagram story with all of my different freelance projects. Literally block her. Like just block her. Block people. Start a new Instagram, whatever you need to do to just like let yourself be fully expressive of who you are. For me, it became a lot easier to accept how multi-passionate, multi-dimensional I am, ever changing, ever ebbing and flowing, was when I looked lower of like, what in my life am I outside of that not accepting, and how can that maybe help me accept this as well? For me, that was my ADHD. For you, it could be anything. It could be a personality trait. It could be also neurodivergence. It could be truly anything. It could just be like accepting that you've changed a lot since high school and accepting that that era's over, or whatever it looks like. Accepting that you like a certain lifestyle that maybe isn't normal, whatever. My ADHD definitely does lend itself well within my multi-passionateness, because having a lot of different things to work on is really helpful for my ADHD, but it also very easily slides over into the shame, because ADHD can feel messy, it can feel chaotic. So as I was also talking about my multi-passionateness as messy and chaotic, it all kind of became swirled in with my ADHD. So being really multi-passionate and having a lot of different career interests started seeming negative again, especially after I was diagnosed with ADHD, because then I had like a name for it and I was like, oh yeah, this is something to be ashamed of. But once I unraveled my shame around ADHD and separated it from me being multi-passionate within hobbies, within career, and accepted that separately and really worked on accepting like, yeah, I have ADHD. Sometimes life does feel really chaotic for me in my brain. Things that are easy for a lot of adults are really fucking hard for me. But that doesn't say anything about me being multi-passionate in career. And for you, it could also be like a lot of unlearning. So what were you told growing up about career, about committing to things, about, never giving up, never quitting? Was it parents that told you that, or professors, or an old boss, or just the people that you surround yourself with? Are they talking in that way that, quitting is bad and you have to stick it out? Like, what is the language around you that you're hearing, and how can you separate that from your own beliefs? One of the coolest parts about all the multi-passionate people I know is we listen to our guts and we quit things and we change and we pivot where we know it's right for us, and only incredible things come from it. Sometimes those incredible things are lessons, but a lot of the time that is just the best decision. And so many people don't let themselves listen to their gut in that way, because we are so told not to quit, don't leave a job before X amount of years, it looks bad on a resume. So really looking at like, where did you learn that being multi-passionate was something to be ashamed of, that changing and ebbing and flowing was something to be ashamed of, and try to rewrite that for yourself, because there are so many other people out there that are also pivoting and changing, even if that is not in your direct eyesight. And when I started surrounding myself with other multi-passionate people and having these conversations, it also helped me so much in not caring what other people that didn't get it, that didn't get the multi-passionate life thought, because I was like, I don't care, because I have people in my circle now that do get it, and that's all that matters. So maybe that's finding different groups to join, or, talking about it online and finding like-minded people. And I even know, like, I was talking to my therapist about it, and she was like, yeah, I didn't become a therapist until I was 40. Like, I went back to school, I'd been a teacher, and then I changed and I pivoted, and like, it's never too late to do that stuff. And I have so many friends in the freelance space, entrepreneur space, content space, which I'm so incredibly grateful for, because so many of them have also had so many pivots and changes and very multi-passionate journeys. And so being able to talk about that and find community within that, and realize like, I'm not the only one that is multi-passionate and changes their ideas of what they thought they wanted in life or career. And that's okay. Like, it's not a bad thing. And then the last thing I want to say is, one of the most pivotal things I've ever done to work on accepting who I am, again, in a very bigger thematical way, I don't even know if that's a word, y'all, but creating a relationship with myself, really grounding into that, helps me every single day not give a fuck what other people think, because there are lots of people's opinions being thrown at me, posting on social media, and there is so much I could be self-conscious about. I could be self-conscious about people's opinions about me coming out in my mid-20s and I'll being gay when I dated men in high school and college, or about the amounts of pivots and changes I've had in business and career, or the hobbies I've tried and not done, or the projects I've started and not finished, even though I posted about them, whatever that looks like. And I'm also someone that, like, I am human. I will fall into comparison sometimes and things like that. But for the most part, I truly, truly, truly do not give a fuck what other people think. And that is because I've created such a rock solid relationship with myself, and therefore a rock solid opinion of myself, that other people's opinions of me cannot shake me. And that has now seeped into my career path and being multi-passionate. Like, someone could throw crazy words at me saying you're chaotic or you're messy, or, your career path doesn't make sense, or I can't take you seriously because of it. And it would not shake me. Sure, would it sting? Maybe a little bit, because again, I'm a human and I'm an emotional one at that. Sure. But it would not actually shake me, and I would not change any of my actions because of their words. And when I say create a relationship with yourself, what I'm really talking about is giving yourself enough quality time with yourself that you actually get to know yourself. I feel like we live in such a fast-paced world. We are always going. There's always plans, color-coded Google. Whoa, what am I saying? Color-coded Google calendars. Like, we're just so busy that a lot of the time we don't spend time with ourselves to actually like sit with our heart, sit with our soul, sit with our desires. For me, the best way I've done this is with my morning routine. Y'all know I love my morning routine. I'm going to create a whole episode on morning routines and the power of them. And the biggest power it's had for me is it gives me time at the start of every day, before I'm looking at my phone, looking at social media, reading texts, talking to people on calls, before anyone else's thoughts, words, anything get into my head. The thoughts and words going into my head and my heart are my own. And this is time that I spend inwardly to continuously get to know myself, listen to my intuition, listen to my gut. And this was hard for me at first because I did not used to love myself. I used to really struggle with my relationship with myself, and sitting in silence with myself was like literal torture. Now I willingly sit in silence for hours in the morning with myself, me, myself, and I, my soul, my thoughts, my emotions, my things, whatever. And this is how I had to know myself. And it's uncomfortable, especially if that's not something you're used to. And especially if you care a lot about other people's opinions, it feels extra uncomfortable, because the more we care about other people's opinions, the less we're caring about our own opinion or listening to our own opinion. So when you actually like sit with yourself and you're like, oh, these are my thoughts about myself and my journey, that's literally crazy. But doing this, getting to know myself and really creating this relationship with myself that I adore, it helped me accept myself, my flaws, what I've been through, what I've struggled with, what I still struggle with, my ADHD, anxiety, all of this stuff. But it also helped me create an opinion of myself. Because I spend time with myself, I know I'm kind, I know I'm passionate, I know I'm hardworking, I know I'm funny, I know all these things about myself because I give myself the time to develop that relationship and know myself. And it's kind of like, if you think of a friendship, or you meet someone, if you don't actually know them, how can you know to respect them or accept them or love them? Because you don't know them. And it's the same with ourselves. Just because we are ourselves doesn't mean we actually know ourselves. And so spending time creating a relationship with yourself that you foster every day like you would a romantic relationship, you can easily accept yourself because you respect yourself and love yourself because you actually know yourself. And that's one of the biggest ways that I've come to accept anything I'm struggling to accept in my life. Again, ADHD, or when I was working to accept my chronic illness, when I was working to accept my sexuality, but especially learning to accept my multi-passionate self. Because I also am someone who, as much as I do have ADHD and I am multi-passionate, I also love my ducks in a row. And a lot of the times, being so multi-passionate, they don't always feel like they're perfectly in a row. And accepting that that's okay because it lets me live a multi-passionate life, that's incredible. I think the funniest part of this podcast is you can see the lighting change in my office as we talk, which means I've probably been talking for far, far too long. Let me check my little list and make sure I covered everything I wanted to. I really think I did. I'm noticing when I get on these podcasts, I definitely go a little wild in my brain because I get so excited about these topics. And my friend who edits these podcasts, a lot of the time I'm pausing. I'm like, girl, where was I? What was I even talking about? And it was funny, as I was going through this, I started feeling that shame pop up. I'm like, oh, see, I'm so chaotic and messy because now my brain's thinking about 12 different other topics. And I'm like, no, you know what? It's because we're so multi-passionate up here. I have so many things I could talk about. I literally think I could sit in this chair and talk for 10 hours straight about a million different topics. So I hope that was helpful. If you are someone who identifies as being multi-passionate, who's maybe had a lot of pivots and changes, ebbs and flows in life, have tried a lot of things, quit, I'm so proud of you because that just shows bravery. That shows that you are continuously pulling back layers and getting to know yourself. You are leveling up in different areas and you are constantly exploring who you are. And I think that is something not enough people do. And I'm just really proud of you. So thank you for being here. I hope you got something out of this, and definitely come and DM me on Instagram and let me know if this resonated. I'd love to hear your multi-passionate journey and yeah, tell about it. So thank you for being here. I'm going to finish my very watered down matcha now and go on with my multi-passionate day. Bye, you guys.